Lego,
Like,
my friend.
yeah,
Lego,
yeah,
Lego,
like
Lego.
yes,
Little bricks build big things.
yes,
Okay.
yes, something like that.
Did you did
Yeah.
you know? Wait. Did you know? Here I got my little book here. This is a
Mm.
weird but true, um, which I've been using for a little project that I have. But I was just in this. I was reading today because I was checking this morning. That hold on, where is it? Let me get this exactly right. Let me not give you an average. Let me see if I can find the exact statistic, which I can't now because I've just lost it. Hold on. Okay, so if you have 6 basic Lego bricks, and if you think about, and this is a good business thing, right? If you have 6 basic Lego bricks,
But same shape.
imagine the 2x4.
Yeah.
Lego. If you have 6 basic Lego bricks, the possible number of combinations for those 6 bricks is more than 900 million.
How you can connect each other?
Yeah. There's more than
Okay.
900 million possible combinations. And so it's
I believe it.
it's infinite. Now, apply that to your small company with 6 people in the company. If you've got right, the infinite number of possibilities of action and reaction and invention and creation, it's huge. And that width and depth and size of possibility is in fact the problem. Because there's so many infinite possibilities that to get people to focus on the same thing and do it the same way is really complex unless you're quite, it's usually really complex unless there's a very specific target or goal that everyone is focused on. And sport gives you the example, get the ball into the goal, right? Now there's an infinite number of possibilities of things that could happen on the field, but the whole purpose is to get the ball in the goal, right? And that's what brings everyone together. And if you don't have that, if you don't have everybody aligned with that unique specific purpose, failure. It's failure. It's destined to fail. It's not going to work at all. And this is one of the problems that anybody trying to get any company moving is going to have. They're going to have this infinity of possibility where you're going to have your vision about how things are going to work, but getting other people to fit into that vision of how things will work is so difficult because our attention and our focus is everywhere on everything a lot of the time. Even if you pay people a lot of money to do a specific task, the results are questionable. You can pay Lionel Messi, I don't know how much he gets paid per football match. I don't know, £1 million or something per football match. But that doesn't guarantee he's going to score, right? It doesn't guarantee he's going to play well. You hope that it guarantees, you hope that it motivates him. But at the end of the day, there has to be a more concrete, definite, better motivation than just the money. We see that in the social enterprises set up by big companies where they realize that the money they pay people is not going to keep them in the company if they're not happy. They're going to end up searching for something else that is going to satisfy their needs or help them scratch the itch or figure out whatever problem it is they need to figure out. So and you mentioned the differences between the approach of big companies and small companies. Yeah, it's shit can change in a day, so but then I've always encouraged people to think big and think long term. And the classic example of this is when banks loan money to countries, they're loaning the money on something between 50 and 250 years return basis. Yeah. Sometimes it's shorter periods of time, 3, 7, 15, 20 years. But sometimes it's on a much longer basis. And they've got to realize that the size and scope of the strategy and the plan, when it's large, it's going to take a long time for things to circle back, for people to see results of their actions. And look, 5 months is let's be honest, 5 months is basically half a year, right? It's basically half a year. And so you're talking about, in a year, if you've got 2 concepts that you want development on, that's it. Yeah. Right? There's still no guarantee. You could have the best idea in the world, and there still be no guarantee of success at the end of the line with that idea. And markets can change quickly as well, right? Markets can open and close in a day, in a week. People's interest can spike. There'll be some virus, and there'll be some new drug, and there'll be a market for that drug, and you need to get the drug on the market because the virus will come and go quickly. And 5 months is way too big a window in which to actually have any real to make any real difference in the situation there. If your shoulder hurts, you don't want to wait 5 months for some solution to that problem. And who knows what's going to be on people's minds in 5 months or 6 months if you're working with certain companies. And it really, at the end of the day, it depends who your client and customer is. I mean, obviously, it's different if your client and customer is government and if your client and customer is people and independent companies, if companies can still be independent. And who knows what people are going to buy? Maybe it's fashionable right now to have a red T-shirt. Everyone wants to buy red T-shirts. But in 6 months' time, it might be green T-shirts or blue T-shirts. In 6 months' time, the weather's going to be different. In 6 months' time, there'll be a different song at the top of the pop charts. There'll be a different champion in this sport. There'll be a new series of the same old shit on TV or something. And so the classic problem, the bigger you are, the slower you travel, and eventually it's hard to keep things moving, and everything and that's the physical problem where everything collapses eventually physically, right? It's what is all this? What is all this talk about sustainability? You know what that is? That's fear of collapse, right? Because it's not growth.
Yeah.
Growth is the positive element. Sustainability is not growth. You can argue that it's better to sustain than go backwards, absolutely, but it's not better to sustain than to actually make progress. And when you focus on sustaining, you're really dealing with an element of fear that you're not going to be able to progress, and that's not going to have a positive effect throughout an organization. And so you don't want to just sustain, because it doesn't mean that you're going anywhere. And then the sustainability is okay for a period of time, but yeah, and intelligent people realize that it's just a word. It's a buzzword. It's we need to have a sustainability management operations supply chain provider manager. I don't know, just make up some long job title. We need to engineer sustainability into our systems. It's like the very nature of nature is that it's unsustainable. The individual organisms are unsustainable. As a collective system, it moves forward. But to get all philosophical, the tree grows to die. The flower blooms to fade. That's the way things are. Products have a lifespan, right? There's a life cycle of the product and productivity, as people do as well. That's what gives value to life, is that it's short, it's limited, and you better fucking do something useful, otherwise it'll have no meaning at all. So there's all of that going on, and it gets lost in sustainability, where it's almost an admission that you can't make progress. Yeah. And people are everyone knows that you have to focus on the positive, right? Everyone knows that if you're feeling sick, you have to realize that one day you'll feel better. Because if you don't, then it's very difficult. Yeah. If your child is sick, you've got to tell them, okay, well, you're sick today, but in 2 or 3 days you'll feel better. Cross our fingers, right? And do the right things. So we've always got to focus on that positive element of things, and sustainability is dangerously close to not focusing on what it actually takes to make things grow. Because if you can't grow, then where are you going to go, right? I think it comes out of fear to a certain extent, and yet it's not always negative, because you want to have sustainability in some things like farming, right? You want your farms always to be producing a certain amount of food. That would be something that's semi-stable. Sustainability is also a want to try to control everything. It's a polite word for micromanagement. Yeah, let's examine everything in minute detail so that we can analyze what is going to happen with it, when sometimes the good things can't be planned. Right? It always comes back to football. You can't predict, before the match starts, you can't predict when someone is going to score. You can't say someone's going to score after 46 seconds or 5 minutes and 27 seconds. You can't. That's the happy chance or the happy accident or the unknown of the element, which is when everybody stands up and goes, yeah, they jump up and down and they order more beer. Right? And you can't really plan those things in. Bars make more money when football teams score goals. It's a really bizarre metric on which to balance your business, but that's how it works. Red Bull sells more Red Bull when the sun shines, right? It's a really bizarre metric upon which to balance your business, but that's how it works. The skiing industry sells more clothes when it snows more, right?
Yeah.
It's environmentally based. It's it's crazy to realize that this might be, the whole industry might be dependent upon something that you can't really control very much, or you shouldn't be able to. I mean, there's an argument that you can control it, but and it's been very interesting recently watching. It's just a side. This is a little side thing. We can, that we can order the weather. We've discussed this topic before. It's like you can order rain. There's companies that sell rain. They make it rain. Yeah. You pay the money and they fly planes and drop chemicals, and it rains. And governments have been doing this for 100 years. Actually, more than 100 years, because the first official experiment in modern times was in 1903 in Australia, because I've covered this in previous podcasts that I did. So in 1903 in Australia, the Australian government experimented with making rain. Yeah, and they were successful. And so you can make it rain, like you can make it snow. You can make it rain anywhere. So what the hell is the problem with all these fires in all these countries? Right? If you notice, all these fires in all these countries recently, massive fires in Southern Europe, massive fires in California, previously massive fires in Australia, massive fires in other places, whole islands burning, right? And governments can order rain. It's just bizarre. I mean, the world is a bizarre place, right? We have the power to solve problems like that, but for some reason we just don't want to. And living next to a military base where I am very much aware that about £100 million is spent every day on that military base. £100 million is spent on a daily basis. Yeah. To make planes, there's a plane going past right now. You can probably hear it, right? Just to make planes fly up and fly in a circle and land again. Now you can argue that it's necessary for national defense. Fair enough. Okay, but if you're going to make something fly in a circle and land, you might as well make something fly and drop water on the forest to stop the fires and save the wildlife and the homes and the people and the tourist industries and everything else that's connected with that. But no, let's burn everything to the ground and do absolutely nothing at all, which is just, and wait a minute, these are islands on fire. Do you know what's around an island? Do you know what's around an island? Water. Right? And you know that for hundreds of years, planes have been flying and picking up water and dropping it on fires to put out fires, right? Right. And and they're not doing that anywhere. They're just letting everything burn, right? Because they're, I don't know, it's all very bizarre. If you ask me, it's all very bizarre. But it's just an example of how things are not as practical, or solutions are not as practical perhaps as they should be. So yeah, and these problems can be solved like that, right? These problems can be solved like that. And are very often solved by independent people who go and do things that make things better because systems are too slow. And eventually everything will slow down to a stop. This is what we're seeing in the world economy right now. What we're seeing in the world economy right now is everything slowing down bit by bit by bit. It hasn't leveled out. It hasn't stopped. 50 shops close a day in Britain alone. 50 shops every single day. 50 shops close because of the slowing down economy. Yeah. It's on the BBC yesterday. I was just like, yep, I know. It's like 25% of small businesses have been completely destroyed by the economic collapse over the last year. Do you know that banks have no money? Did you know that? Did you know the banks are all bankrupt now all over the world because of the last year? All the banks are bankrupt. Every single bank in the world is bankrupt. Yeah. And because every bank is bankrupt, every government is bankrupt. Every government, the Scottish government spent £1 billion supporting local businesses that couldn't work because the government told them to shut. £1 billion, the Scottish government. The Scottish government doesn't have £1 billion. The Scottish government's completely bankrupt. Yeah. So I don't think people realize that people can't count anymore. Yeah. It's like, oh, if I borrow this money, I have this money. No. If you borrow this money, you're promising to pay money back in the future, but where are you going to get that money to pay back if there's no economy? There's no job, if there's no new business, if there's no new industry. Where are you going to get that money? People don't get it yet. They still, it hasn't quite clicked yet. It hasn't quite clicked yet. It's the end of high streets, right? There won't be any shops in the future. This is a rant on something else, but it's very important for economics and business. There won't be any shops in the future. You know that. It's in. It's finished. It's done. The number of shops is in decline and will continue to go down. When I was a kid, in my parents' village, there were 6 shops. 6. Now there's 0. When I was a kid, the local high streets were full of shop after shop after shop after shop after shop. Now 50% of the buildings are empty. And it's going, and the emptiness is increasing and the businesses are going down. It's the end of consumer culture. All that will be left soon are some shopping malls, but they're trying to shut all the shopping malls by saying you can only enter the shopping mall if various reasons. So all that'll be left is shopping malls, Amazon, eBay, and internet websites. That'll be it. Maybe there'll be a few restaurants, maybe there'll be a few coffee bars, maybe there'll be a few gyms. There'll be people laundering money through casinos and arcades and other underground nefarious businesses. But the hotels be another example of that. But that's it. That culture is just gone. Bye-bye. Our children will grow up in a world where they won't really go shopping except to go to Tesco, Asda, Lidl, and that'll be it, basically. They'll learn everything from YouTube, and they'll know nothing. And they'll know nothing. That's and schools won't help because the school system that presently exists was built 150 years ago. School is about as useful as a horse. Don't get me wrong, horses are useful. But only for very specific tasks at specific times, and they have their place. They have their place, but it's Southeast Asia sees the construction of blocks of flats in less than 6 months from concept to key to open door and people living in there. Less than 6 months, right? You can't even get a product delivered in Europe. You can't even get a product delivered in Europe, right? I mean, we're living in, this is like the Stone Age, right? This is the modern Stone Age. We're living in the modern Stone Age in Europe, where everything is so slow that it doesn't happen. And eventually, maybe people will wake up to it, and they'll change, and they'll have. And the solution is flexibility. The solution is devolved power within companies, which is separating the companies into smaller parts and allowing each part to make its own decisions for itself and living with the consequences of that. Because the big system can't be managed. Just like in a school, you don't teach education, you don't teach school, you shouldn't, right? You compartmentalize into geography, history, social studies, science, art, languages, technology, sports, drama, whatever, music, whatever else is available, right? You've got to do that within the companies. You can't treat it as one whole, because it doesn't work. Having one rule for everybody has massive consequences, because there's no flexibility there. I understand the necessity for it, but you know, I was reading a passage. Here's just a little point. I know I'm ranting, but here's a little point. It's very important. I was reading this passage from the Old Testament. Still trying to get through the Bible. Got 16 more books. I've read 50 books of the 66 books in the Bible. I've got 15 more. Yeah. And there's this passage in one of the Old Testament philosophies where, okay, think about this from a business perspective. We wish to be teachers of the law, but we understand not what we say or what we believe when we say that. But we know that the law is good if man uses it for good. But the law is not made for a good man, but for a lawless and disobedient man. Let me repeat that. The law is not made for a good man. The law is made for a disobedient man. Now, the rules are to keep in line the bad people, not the good people. The good people are not supposed to follow all the rules. The good people are supposed to go out and do what is necessary to make things work. They're not supposed to be held by the rules and the laws. That's not what the rules and the laws are for. It doesn't matter if it's rules and laws in society. It doesn't matter if it's rules and laws in companies. If you're, let's use this theoretical situation. Let's imagine your partner is a businesswoman. Let's imagine your partner is a pedant, that your partner is pedantic about getting things right and wanting to take things forward. If she only works and only lives within the strict set of rules given to her, the company will not make progress, because the rules and the laws are not for the people who know. The rules and the laws are for the people who don't know. Yeah, the yellow card and the red card in football are for the people who can't play well, not for the people who can play well, right? And this is where companies have gone completely wrong. And it's in the Old Testament philosophy of the Bible. It says that if you are a good person, doing the right thing and doing a good job, you are not to be held by the rules. You are allowed to be free to do what you need to do to get things done. The same way that anybody needs flexibility, because if everybody's held by the same set of rules, that it won't work. The law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and the disobedient, for the ungodly, for the sinners, for the profane, for murderers. That's what it says. The laws are made for these people, not the good people. Because if you start applying those laws to the good people, you punish good people for doing wrong things. Now that's my biblical rant, okay? But you understand how it connects to businesses.
Yeah.
That when you start saying, well, you know, because some people don't know what to do, everybody has to follow these rules, and then your hands get tied, sometimes behind your back, and you don't have the flexibility that you need to progress, which is where the big companies need to be broken down into smaller companies, and they need to be given that flexibility to make changes and to experiment a little bit. Yeah. And if you're interested in method and process and scientific method, the scientific method is experimentation, which is repetition, basically. It's repeating things to see what the results are. If it's good, we continue it and we do it again and we share it with people. And if it's bad, we let people know that it's bad and it doesn't work, and we move on to other things. So, rant. Yeah, but big company, little company, and the differences there. And you're right in the middle of that, yeah.